A second, please. You already read the disclaimer earlier this morning, right, when you opened the room?
Yes.
Okay. So I wanted to do a quick recap of some trades that set up here this morning, just to go sort of left to right. This is the 6E. Most of you know this is the Euro futures. As you know, it's been in a downtrend. You can see guidance was short and pretty much broke support here. It was in this little consolidation area for a long time. It just kind of sat right in here, and then it just rolled over and broke support here in this 29.21-ish area, setting up a nice short trade. Put 4 contracts on here. I've already peeled some off, and I'm just trailing a stop on what's left. But the real mover, the real story of the morning has been was the other equities. Russell and EMD both dropped about 100 ticks. Here was your deep probe. You can see here that our guidance was short. So we were looking to short the equities all morning. They were weak. Cash markets were weak. We knew that we were looking for shorts. This was what we call a deep probe, where it came all the way back up into this area here above this 3/8 pivot up into here. When the bars turn yellow, we call that a deep probe. It's still a short condition. Guidance is short. And then it rolled over. You might remember some of those numbers, 990, 920, 8830, came down, checked this pivot right here, paused for a little bit, gave you a chance to get in if you didn't get in up here. Remember that number in the room? For it to roll and break, and then it paused again here. There was a couple little spots you could have got in as it was descending through these pivots here. You know, you had a couple little pauses. You know, it rolled and broke, paused here, broke, paused here, and then it just fell off the map. When it took 8630 out, and then you remember these numbers in the room, 8440, 8240, and then ultimately, of course, it got down here to this 980. It's kind of consolidating down here now. This was a final yellow bar probe at the end of the rundown right in here. You got one last pop. So when we talk about one and dones, what we're really talking about is one or two and done, meaning that you patiently wait for a nice setup, cautiously pick your spot to get in, and then when the market starts to move in your favor, you just ride it down for what it's worth. This is the E-mini S&P. Some traders still like to trade this. I do. I've kind of gone back to it. Part of the reason is that, for instance, here you can see when EMD was doing this deep probe, and the Russell did too. All the markets had this very deep probe that came up like this. Notice at the same time what the E-mini S&P was doing. It was just kind of sitting here in this sideways price action here. And what it was actually doing was just kind of hitting its head against this pivot. See the 3/8 pivot here? See, it was just sort of hitting its head, hitting its head, hitting its head. And that's where I put 4 contracts on there. I've already peeled 3 off, and I'm just trailing the stop on 1 here. But this is a good alternative, too. You know, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow night in our diversification trading webinar, where we talk about looking at different instruments and having a mix on your trading screen. And then if you have 2 screens or 3 screens, then take another instrument. And it's good to spread the risk over a couple of different classes. So you want to have a currency like 6E or the dollar or 6B. You want to have an equity or 2 like EMD, NASDAQ, maybe the E-mini S&P, Russell. We'll show a couple different mixes. And then you want to pepper in a couple other ones like Gary likes crude oil. You see that in the room. That's a little fast for some traders. Natural gas is another good one, NG. I have that on another screen. I'll show that tomorrow night. NG. You're trading the November contract on that. By the way, if you're going to trade the commodities, you got to make sure that you have the current front month and that you know what the limits. Some of those commodities have limits, lock limits, high and low. So we'll show you how to figure that out tomorrow night too. It's not too complicated. But if you're going to trade other instruments like the commodities, you got to know what month you're trading and what the limits high and low are. So yeah, I mean, as long as these two final trades here sort of track their way down, I'll just trail the stop, and then at some point they're going to stop out, and that'll be it. But the point being here, you don't need to, I think you see with some of these trades, you don't need to take a lot of trades. You really don't. I mean, you can only, a couple of 3 trades a morning is really all you need. Sometimes we talk to traders and they have a tendency to over-trade a little bit. Is that true of anybody in here? Got a little bit of over-trading sometimes? It happens. It happens. It's a habit that's hard to break. EMD is the mid-cap 400 futures, Richard. It's $10 a tick. I like it. It trades very similar to the Russell TF in terms of its movement. Very similar. Well, I think that's it. I'm going to